No space, no antiques, but there is a magical jade plaque with a magical inheritance. Being a rancher, becoming an island owner, these are not the most important. Wade wants to enjoy life and everything magical. I have a house facing the sea, with warm spring flowers blooming. I have a ranch, where I can ride my horse and enjoy a happy life. Keywords of the novel. Rich America without pop-ups, Rich America Complete Collection Download, Rich America Latest Chapter Reading. Chapter 01. Wuhua Tianbao. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 02. Shennong Jing. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Look at you, your home is fine. If you insist on going out to explore the mountains and forests, you will lose your appearance as a thin and black international student. Wade's home is in a small town in the countryside of Jiangnan. After returning from the investigation in Shennong, I naturally received complaints from my mother Huangyu. Your son is not up to par, that's what I'm studying. Wade smiled and leaned on his mother's shoulder. Go there, studying hard is the most important thing for you now. If you have nothing to do, read more books over there. If there is a chance, you can take the PhD exam. If you have a suitable partner, you can also start dating. You are already 25 years old, but I told you not to find foreigners. I can't understand foreign languages with your father. Huang Yu is very proud of her son, although almost every household in the village has built buildings. Although their family is one of the few bungalows, the most prestigious one in the village is Wei Da's family, because Wei Da is an international student and a master's student. Foreigners are also pretty good. They say that mixed-race people are beautiful and smart. Don't worry, I'm not in a hurry about dating. Men don't even consider themselves old until they're 30. Wei Da smiled, saying that he's basically in poverty now, and dating takes money and time. Wade really can't afford it now. Where's my dad? He went to the fields again. Well, I went to the fields to get pesticides. You can tell me everything you want to eat, and I'll be leaving in a few days. It's probably at least 6 months since I went. Pick up your luggage, and let me know what else you want to take with you. Huang Yu kept talking about some small things, but Wade didn't feel any hesitation. He still likes this kind of environment, and there's no such warm feeling abroad. By the way, don't run around these days. Go to your aunt's and uncle's house for a walk. It's not convenient for you to travel back and forth abroad. Come and play with them. Well, I know that. Mom, don't help me tidy up or prepare anything. Some things can't be taken with you, such as chicken or chicken feet. Firstly, I'm afraid my mom might cause trouble, and secondly, the immune tests in the United States are really annoying. Wade also reminded me once again. I see, these American devils are really annoying. They are not allowed to bring anything, and it's really annoying. Huang Yu was indeed a bit unhappy and very dissatisfied with the quarantine policy of the United States. There are too many restrictions, which makes it difficult for our son to enjoy some local snacks. Wade smiled. The quarantine policy in the United States is indeed a bit troublesome, but this is also a vague explanation from Wade, because he knows that once he wants to eat something, his mother must be busy preparing it. Wade has put a lot of pressure on his family in recent years, and now he doesn't have the ability to make his parents feel more relaxed and comfortable. However, he definitely doesn't want to trouble his parents on these small matters. Xiaoda, if you have any development in the United States, you can stay there. I heard that the treatment in the United States is better. During dinner, Wei Da's father, Wei Hui, suddenly mentioned that although he also hopes his son can be by his side, he hopes his son has a greater future. This is not urgent, I haven't graduated yet. I am currently studying and looking at where the treatment is good, so I will stay. This is also Wei Da's truth, not to say that the domestic situation is not good, but Wei Da really needs to find a better job that can help himself and his family live a better life. Where did you buy a car? Last time I saw you wearing some photos, it was a big run. Wei Hui suddenly said enthusiastically. Of course, there is no computer at home, but some households in the village do. Although Wei De usually makes phone calls home, overseas calls are really expensive, so sometimes he also communicates through computer videos. Wei De also sends some photos of himself abroad for his parents to see. Cheap, it seems like a three-handed car, and it's still an old model. Don't look at it as a Mercedes-Benz, but in foreign countries, cars don't have such high taxes. I worked some part-time jobs there, and this car costs about a little over $3,000. Wei De smiled. His own car is indeed very convenient. After all, it's not a new car. That's amazing, my son has already gone crazy. Huang Yu was very proud. Many people in the village knew about this photo because Huang Yu and Wei Hui didn't know how to go online, and their neighbor helped them open Wei Da's photo album. Well, I'm not interested in Mercedes-Benz anymore. When I make money, I'll buy a new car. This car will eventually be phased out. Wei De didn't explain much. After all, Mercedes-Benz can be considered a top luxury car in China. Being able to drive such a car can at least be considered a successful person. Study hard, and once you find a good job, you can buy a better car. Wei Hui is very proud. Although some villagers often say that reading is useless and Wei De has read a lot of books, which makes the family's burden too heavy, Wei Hui knows that it is also because his son has read a lot of books, so the future will be more promising. By the way, Dad and Mom, you can apply for your passport. I've been studying there for about 6 months now. Anyway, I've been there for 2 years, and you guys will come and play there. If we have money, we'll have money. If we don't have money, we'll be poor. We can't have our son stay there for 2 years. My dad and mom didn't even go to the United States. Wei De also mentioned the old story again. Traveling abroad is attractive to many Chinese people, and Wei De does not want his parents to have any regrets, so he once again encouraged them. Say it again, say it again. Wei Hui was really reluctant. A round-trip ticket to the United States would cost over 10,000 yuan, and he was really unwilling to spend this money. The moon in the United States may not necessarily be rounder than in China, so there is no need to spend that unjustified money. Wei De didn't persist much anymore. After all, his family still doesn't have much money, and he even owes a lot of money because of his study abroad, so Wei De now also wants to earn more money. He doesn't want his parents to live a difficult life. He wants his parents to no longer be frugal because of these things. Lying in bed, Wei De looked at the jade plaque he had picked up. He always felt that it was somewhat inexplicable, but wherever it was strange, he couldn't say. As for this jade plaque, he hasn't been flaunting it everywhere now. Let's stay in his hand and take a look. Wei De, who had turned off the lights, was lying in bed. His life had to continue and he was going out in a few days. Although living at home is enjoyable for him, his vacation has come to an end. In order to make a living, he still has to leave home and go to that country on the other side of the ocean. But when Wei De turned off the light, he seemed to have noticed something was wrong. The jade plaque placed at the head of his bed seemed to reveal something different at this moment. Although it was almost invisible to his eyes, Wei De seemed to see an illusory little old man emanating a faint luster at the head of the bed. Wei De opened his eyes wide, carefully staring at the small old man emitting a faint light, quickly turned on the light again, and the little old man indeed disappeared. But when Wei De was a little excited and turned off the light again, the little old man appeared again. If it weren't for Wei Da's accidental discovery, this little old man emitting a faint light might not have been able to see it. Wei De was a bit excited, as if he had discovered a remarkable secret. Feeling his chin, Wei De sat cross-legged on the bed and placed the jade on his knee. Wei De, who gritted his teeth, also made up his mind to give it a try. In television, there is always something about using water or fire to roast and discover the secrets hidden in books, and such jade should have some blood to recognize its owner. Find the small scissors and lightly poke at the tip of your thumb. Wei De felt like he had gone crazy, but he still chuckled and turned off the lights. Wei De, who lifted his hand, was very proud as he waited for the appearance of the little old man. Sure enough, the little old man appeared, and Weida was excited at this moment. His blood won't flow in vain, and Weida, who knew there must be some blood droplets on his fingertips, looked at the little old man and excitedly dripped the blood droplets onto him. Blood drops recognized the master. I'm too smart. Weida had just risen with a wave of pride, but his pride did not continue. When the blood bead touched the little old man, Weida's eyes immediately darkened and he completely fainted. Weida had a dream, in which he felt dizzy because many strange things were constantly drilling into his head. Weida really has a headache, but now he is just struggling in vain. Such forced memory infusion still makes people feel that his brain is about to explode. According to legend, Emperor Yan invented the lei, tasted all kinds of herbs, invented medicine, and hence the name Shennong. Emperor Yan made lei and planted 5 grains, laying the foundation for agriculture and industry. As the first clan tribe of the Chinese nation to transition from fishing and hunting to agriculture, the Yan Emperor Shennong clan created China's agricultural culture. To grow a large number of crops, the first step is to select suitable plant species and domesticate them into crop varieties, such as rice, millet, wheat, and beans. Eating grass to treat diseases is not unique to humans. Many animals have the phenomenon of taking medicine to treat diseases, indicating that human ancestors instinctively accumulated a lot of herbal knowledge a long time ago. So now Weida has obtained that piece of jade in Shennongjia, which also records many remarkable inheritances, known as the Shennong Jing. Chapter 03. Weida's Opportunities. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Shennong Classic of Materia Medica is one of the 4 classic works of traditional Chinese medicine, but this is clearly not the case. This Shennong Jing seems to be more about teaching people to become excellent farmers and veterinarians. Although it has just been passed down, Weida has been studying these things for the past few days. The Shennong Jing can be roughly divided into 2 parts, one is the plant section and the other is the animal section. Both animals and plants are introduced to their living habits and solutions to diseases and pests. Weida felt that obtaining this magical scripture seemed to be in line with his major. He studied natural sciences, and at this time, Weida seemed to have developed even more towards becoming an outstanding farmer. However, if the record in this scripture is true, then Weida also believes that as a different farmer, he may be able to create a very remarkable achievement. Amidst the reluctance of my parents, I boarded the bus and first transferred to Shanghai. After taking a flight for more than 10 hours, I arrived in Los Angeles and then transferred to Dallas. Weida breathed a sigh of relief. His school is located in the northern part of Dallas. Dallas is the 3rd largest city in Texas, located in central northern Texas and the 9th largest city in the United States. Dallas belongs to a continental climate, with flat farmland, forests, small streams, and lakes in the suburbs. The climate is mild, but less rainy, dry, and windy. Overall, it is warm in winter and hot in summer, with significant regional differences in average temperature. But for Weida, it's great. He's from Jiangnan. It's okay to be a little hot, but once it gets cold, it's very uncomfortable. Dallas has a wide range of industrial categories, including emerging industries such as electronics, appliances, airplanes, missiles, as well as traditional industries such as textiles, clothing, food, and agricultural machinery, all of which have a considerable scale. This is definitely a very developed city. And here, perhaps for many domestic fans, it is the familiar NBA team, the Dallas Mavericks. Returning to the small house he rented here, Weida's mood was still very good. Weida is looking forward to it now. He was originally majoring in natural sciences and has now received remarkable inheritance. If he can seize the opportunity, then he will definitely be able to truly achieve great success. And in Dallas, it's also a great opportunity for Weida to showcase his skills. Texas is the largest state in the southern United States and the 2nd largest state in the country. Texas has developed agriculture, with main agricultural products including cotton, sorghum, and other grains, vegetables, and fruits. Texas has the highest livestock industry in the United States, mainly raising beef cattle, pigs, sheep, and poultry. Now it seems that this place is very suitable for Wei Da's development, because it is a very good base prepared for him. Large ranches and farms are very popular in the United States, and there are some good ranches and land near Dallas. Wei Da now wants to study carefully. If he really masters some skills, then he doesn't worry about not having the opportunity to develop. Many farmers and ranchers need the help of professional talents, and Wei Da can also use his abilities to get his first bucket of gold. Driving towards the shopping center with his own broken Mercedes-Benz, Wei Da basically cooks by himself. The culinary skills of Westerners go back and forth, such as frying and boiling, and they have no understanding of the essence of Chinese cuisine. Although Wei Da is also able to adapt to Western cuisine, he still prefers authentic Chinese cuisine more often. Hey Wei. Just as I walked out the door, I saw a warm, chubby man with a big beard greeting. Old John. Wei Da smiled and hugged the chubby man. Shennong, how about you come and try my craft tonight? No, buddy, your dish is too greasy. Old John waved his hand. Although Chinese cuisine is famous all over the world, many Westerners may not necessarily like authentic Chinese cuisine, and ordinary Chinese restaurants will also make certain modifications to cater to the taste of some Westerners. It's really regrettable, if it weren't for a ride. Old John was an old worker living next door. Although many people thought the welfare benefits in America were good, there were also many poor people in America. Okay, I'll go to the supermarket, if you're on your way. Old John smiled and took a photo of Wei Da's car. He still had a good impression of this friendly and enthusiastic Chinese boy, although many Americans believe that Chinese people are like mice. Poverty, ignorance, and vulgarity are synonymous with Chinese people. During the time spent with Wei Da, he also developed a good impression of distant China. Get on the car, I happen to need to purchase some items. Wei Da skillfully started the car, and he did need to buy some things. Of course, it would be even better to have a native like Old John. Although he has been in Dallas for almost 2 years, Wei Da definitely doesn't have as much understanding of the surrounding situation as Old John. This damn air conditioning is broken again, it's not a good thing. Wei Da clapped his hands in frustration. The summer in Texas is definitely very hot, and the current temperature is at least around 35 degrees Celsius. Even with the car windows open, it still feels hot. Change a car, your car can go to the waste station. Old John also felt very dissatisfied with the lack of air conditioning in the car. Fatty people are basically afraid of the heat, and Old John is definitely more uncomfortable than Wei Da now. It can't go into the waste station yet, otherwise I'll have to walk. Otherwise, on such a hot day, I might faint on the street. Wei Da smiled and said, but on such a hot day, I think those ranchers and farmers are the ones who feel the most uncomfortable. They will definitely have a headache now, and such weather is likely to cause drought, which will be a huge loss for them. In the United States, it is often possible to talk about the weather when there is nothing to say. However, it is obvious that Wei Da and Old John are not like this. Wei Da deliberately wants to know some useful news for himself, while Old John is gloating or something else is another matter. In fact, many American farmers and ranchers were not as wealthy as they imagined, and now the dry weather will cause them huge losses. Old John, are there many rural areas and ranches near Dallas? Wei Da began to ask deliberately. Perhaps you can go to Abilene, more than 200 kilometers away, which used to be mainly focused on animal husbandry and agriculture. Every year, the Texas Commodity Fair, pastoral performances, and livestock exhibitions were held. Although other industries have also developed, agriculture and animal husbandry still have a certain scale. Wei Da carefully remembered some valuable news that Old John revealed. Abilene. Maybe I can go take a look. You know, my major is natural science, Wei Da said half-truthfully. Old John, how do you get to Abilene? 30 miles west is Fort Worth, and Abilene is 200 kilometers southwest of Fort Worth. You can reach it by driving along Interstate 20, but buddy, unless you want to travel by road, there is an Air Force base there. After all, Old John is a local snake, and naturally has a good understanding of this information. Calculating it to be nearly 300 miles, according to Wei Da's speed of 100 kilometers per hour, about 3 to 4 hours is completely enough. Wei Da thinks this is a very good choice. Although Abilene has established more modern industry, there are still many farms and pastures. Wei Da has now identified his target direction, and of course, at this time, he also needs to improve his professional skills. When he can better improve his skills, whether it's the farm or the ranch, these are his potential customers, which is really a good choice for Wei Da to tap into the first bucket of gold. Having identified the target, Wei Da has now begun to prepare more for himself. Some of the homework in school also needs to be prepared, and of course, there are more jokes about the magical inheritance. Wei Da needs to ensure his success in World War I, and he needs to ensure that he builds his reputation here so that he can better pave the way for his future development. Humming a song with a happy mood, also cooking food, sitting at the dining table, Wei Da was also browsing through some useful information, such as the drought situation in Texas, and the diseases of crops and livestock in such a climate. When targeted choices are made, combined with some solutions in inheritance, Wei Da naturally has more confidence in achieving success. Chapter 04. Cowboy Bar. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Driving along the 20th State Highway, Wei Da felt very happy. Classic songs such as Hotel California and I Can't Tell You Why by the Eagles were played on the car stereo. Nowadays, Wei Da has a very American style of road travel, which also makes him very satisfied. Although he is looking for more opportunities this time, such a comfortable trip also makes people enjoy it. Hi buddy. Rolling down the car window and speeding past an open top, several punk youths shouted loudly at Wei Da, "Let's have a race." Wei Da is too lazy to pay attention to these non-mainstream cars. Although Wei Da's speed is maintained at around 100 kilometers per hour, he does not have the habit of racing. A speed of 100 kilometers per hour is considered a very stable and safe speed. For Wei Da, there is no need to seek any excitement with these abnormal guys. Seeing Wei Da ignoring them, the punk youth made a global gesture, slamming on the gas pedal and the car speeding past. Wei Da was too lazy to retaliate with a finger, just spat at these guys was enough. Passing through Fort Worth, Vida gradually amplified the sound of the car stereo on this open and flat intercontinental road. Dynamic rock was still very flavorful at this time, and Wei Da didn't necessarily prefer a particular music style the most. He liked all the beautiful songs, and now on such road trips, rock naturally makes people feel more energetic. Abilene is just a small town with about 100,000 people, and for Wei Da, he naturally doesn't need to wander around the city now. The farms and pastures outside the city are his choice now, so there was no need to stay at all. After more than 4 hours of departure, Vida also took a break at a Cowboy Wine outside Abilene City, where he would have his own potential customers. "Asian kid, this is Cowboy Wine, this is not your territory." Wei Da pushed open the door and entered the wine. Although there weren't many people in the wine, in an instant, Wei Da seemed to have become the focus of attention, and this place wasn't welcoming him either. When it comes to American cowboys in the West, people will think of Texas, which is not only the cowboy state of the United States, but also the hometown of the world's cowboys. American cowboys always give people the impression of being fierce, bold, and chivalrous. In fact, cowboys are people who take care of cows and horses on the ranch. In addition to working on the ranch, some cowboys also participate in cowboy competitions. Although times have changed, authentic cowboys are almost nowhere to be seen, but after all, Texas is the land of cowboys, and there are still some cowboy spirits and cultures that have been passed down here. For some old cowboys, they don't like young people with delicate skin and tender flesh. They don't like those flashy young people, they like young people who are hardworking, adventurous, and brave. Coming to get beer, the weather is bad enough. Wei Da ignored those unwelcome gazes and was still satisfied with this delicious specialty wine. I'm here for a drink, of course, because like you guys, I'm looking for a job, maybe on a ranch. Kid, where's your horse? Can you ride a horse? Maybe you have a lasso or a saddle. Kid, leave after drinking, you don't know cowboys. A middle-aged man with two big beards said unhappily, and his words also caused other cowboys in the wine to boo Wada. Okay, maybe I need you to teach me some equestrian skills, but I can assure you that I am definitely a trustworthy companion. Perhaps you can call me a veterinarian, and I am also very knowledgeable about grass. The aroma of wine is also afraid of deep alleys, and modesty is not popular in this part of the United States, and Wada also has his own confidence. You can call me Wei. It's nice to be here. Wei Da's words also reduced the subtle hostility towards him in the cowboy wine. Although Wei Da is not a real cowboy, for these cowboys, Wei Da can be considered a half-companion, which is worth reluctantly accepting because they are all people who deal with farms and ranches. Hey kid, are you really a veterinarian? Do you know those livestock? Wei Da casually drank his beer and served a large glass of cold beer on such a hot day, which was really enjoyable. I think so, maybe you can test me. But I need to be clear, I don't have those certificates. In the United States, many things are very rigid. Wei Da needs to clarify some basic information about himself, otherwise if it causes a bigger misunderstanding, it will be self-seeking. I think maybe I can give some help to some ranchers now. You know, in this dry season, they not only need sufficient water sources, but also need to do a good job in disease prevention and control. Wei Da shrugged without paying attention to those skeptical looks. He was indeed practicing medicine without a license, but Wei Da has confidence. He has been studying diligently during this period, and he is still very confident. Kid, there are a few cows in my ranch who have a bad appetite now. Do you have a way to solve it? Of course, this needs to be based on the premise that you can recognize the breed of the beef cattle. An old cowboy sitting in the corner raised his wine glass, and just as his words fell, a burst of laughter came from the wine. If you take good preventive measures, I believe it may not be foot-and-mouth disease, but it could also be anthrax. You know, this is summer. But I don't think you've encountered these troubles, otherwise you wouldn't be sitting here drinking beer so peacefully. Buddy, would you like to visit your ranch? Perhaps I can find a solution. In such bad weather, what you need is to make your cows eat more so that they can be healthier. Wei Da smiled, ignoring any doubts. What he needs now is to prove his ability. In some ranches in the United States, the breeding of beef cattle is still quite meticulous. Immunization, health status, medical history, and immunization history are basically registered, which also provides a better understanding of the growth of beef cattle. Okay, if the price is reasonable, I'm willing to take you to take a look. My ranch is nearby. But kid, if you can't solve these things, don't think of getting a penny from me. The grass prices are very high now, and the cost of farming is already making it hard for me to catch my breath. The old cowboy stood up and walked towards Wei Da. You can call me a contract. Josh drove ahead to lead the way, and Wei Da followed behind Josh. The lives and operations of some small ranchers nowadays are not necessarily very good, and the cost of breeding is increasing. Coupled with such dry weather, this naturally makes small ranchers like Josh feel more pressure. After a bumpy dirt road, Wei Da also arrived at the ranch in Josh. This is really just a relatively small ranch, but for Wei Da, it has nothing to do with him. What he needs is to make some money here, it's that simple. Seeing the cows leisurely eating grass, Wei Da also recognized the breeds of these cows. This is a Brahmin cow, which has a long head or facial features and drooping ears. Angled, with a wide distance between the two corners, thick corners, and a moderate body size, this type of cattle has a high meat production rate, is tolerant of bitterness, and does not have strict requirements for feed conditions. It can effectively utilize rough plants that cannot be utilized by other cattle on poor and arid pastures. It can also adapt to fence fattening management and has the ability to quickly gain weight. The heat-resistant habit also allows Brahman cattle to spend the hot summer in Texas peacefully. Although some pastures are now yellowing due to a lack of irrigation water, these effects are not significant for Brahman cattle as they can eat anything. Brahman cattle have relatively little courage, but their personality is also relatively gentle, although it was the first time Wada had approached a herd of cattle, and it was also the first time Wada had truly started using his abilities to inspect them. He was full of confidence and believed that he could definitely solve these difficulties well. I patted the sagging skin of the cow, flipped the corners of its eyes, and most importantly, flipped its lips. For Wada, the first action was only allowed to succeed without failure, and he was also very confident in being able to detect some problems, but being more careful would help Wada's judgment. Chapter 05. $50,000 of feed. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Although it can only be considered as a newcomer, Wada can still ensure that this batch of cattle in Josh has not experienced any epidemics. This is also quite reassuring. Once an epidemic occurs, it may be a headache. Although Wada knows that he may have the ability to solve those diseases now, he also needs to consider that he may encounter significant challenges in this process. Accumulating more experience is what Wada needs to do most now. If there is no epidemic, then solving some other small troubles is really important for Wada. There is no epidemic, it's just that the appetite of these cows is not good now. What Wada needs now is to make these cows let go of their appetite. Josh, can I see your hay? Brahman cows have a strong appetite, and the rough food that is difficult for ordinary cows to eat is also something Brahman cows can eat. Wada looked at the hay given by Josh, all of which were coarse hay. Basically, it is some hay, as well as corn straw, wheat straw, rice straw, cereal, soybean straw, and husks. Although they are all coarse hay, there are relatively few problems. These are the usual ingredients for Brahman cattle, which is not a problem at all. Experienced old cowboys like old Josh cannot make too many mistakes. It is obviously inappropriate to ask Josh to provide fine food for cattle, as it would increase the cost of breeding, which is also contrary to the dietary habits of Brahman cattle. So now Wada is also quickly searching for some information in his mind. Although there is no record of Brahman cows in the Shennong Jing, many times he knows everything at once. As long as he masters absolute abilities, he can also come up with solutions. Josh, I can leave you a portion of the ingredients that won't increase your breeding costs, but what you need is a slight change in your feed ratio. Trust me, this is definitely not a problem. I can leave it at no charge for now, maybe you can see the results in 2 or 3 days. Wada didn't fuss over it, after all, he doesn't have more proof of himself yet, so now he also needs to maintain some patience at this time, or in other words, he needs to cast a long line to catch big fish. Josh held the ingredients written by Wada, and there were not many changes in the raw materials, but there were some changes in the proportion of ingredients. To be honest, Josh doesn't think Wada's ingredient is special. You should know that he is an experienced old herdsman, and his experience is quite rich. However, seeing one's own cow unwilling to eat grass for a long time, once the moment when the cow gains weight is missed, it is a huge loss for Josh. Although he was skeptical, he still took the ingredients left by Wada. Anyway, there was no need to increase investment, and it didn't seem like there was any risk. It was also possible to give it a try. I'll leave the phone number for you. This is just our first treatment, and when you see the results, I believe you will trust me even more. Wada also left some behind, with a strong sense of defense. Wada doesn't want his credit to be directly erased, but he can rely on such a skill to make money. Having left behind the feed, coupled with some small changes in the details of farming, Wada was still satisfied and prepared to leave. For Wada, the first action was very good and went smoothly. What he needs now is patience. When Josh's side has achieved results, Wada naturally does not need to worry about customers, and there is no need to search for opportunities everywhere now. Returning to Dallas, Wada continued to study his own coursework and also studied the Shennong Jing more seriously at this time. when conducting research on beef cattle, Wei Da's current focus is also on grass. Becoming a veterinarian is very promising, but if high-quality grass can be cultivated, it will give Wei Da more opportunities. In such a large ranch, once Wei Da can improve the grass, he also believes that his customers will definitely be in constant flow. Wei, there's a cavalry competition today, let's go together. Just as Wei Da came out of the library, he met a good friend. Hey Kevin, I'm not a baseball fan, Vida shrugged. Baseball and rugby are the most popular in the United States, and of course, there are also horse races. Although basketball is also a popular sport, its popularity in the United States still lags behind that of baseball and rugby. As for the NBA, their global commercialization is really successful, which cannot be ruled out due to regional reasons. It's really regrettable. Maybe you need to continue watching the Dallas Mavericks game, and I don't know when they will win their first championship trophy in team history. Kevin shrugged regretfully. He's not a basketball fan, and Wei Da is also a basketball fan that Kevin knows. Wei Da has been very fulfilling these days, but in fact, his coursework is very easy. He has already completed all his credits, and now it's just his thesis. Nowadays, Wei Da is constantly absorbing some other knowledge. Although the Shennong Jing is magical, it should be considered that this is the United States, and some species still have some differences. At this time, Wei Da naturally needs to consider more differences. Wei Da is very satisfied with his current life and constantly enriches his knowledge. Wei Da also believes that he is getting closer and closer to success. Hi Wei. Wei Da was busy cooking when the phone rang. A day earlier than Wei Da expected, Josh also showed enough enthusiasm on the phone. Josh, how is the ranch now? Wei Da still had confidence in his heart. He received a call from Josh, which showed that his first attempt had a very good effect, and Josh's call also proved that Wei Da had successfully attracted his first customer. Thank you for the ingredients, buddy. You're really amazing. Although you're an experienced old herdsman, Josh still felt that the magical Chinese was really amazing. He just slightly changed the ratio of the feed ingredients, and the appetite of the cows who had previously lost appetite has improved a lot. Seeing that these cows have a good appetite, Josh was certainly very happy. Josh, I think you now believe in my abilities. Perhaps we can consider a new stage, which will make your ranch more successful. However, buddy, my ingredients are not cheap. Not to mention the starting price, Wei Da believes it's worth it. He believes that Josh will definitely be able to make the right choice at this time. Okay, buddy, you've won. I need the feed ratio in your hand now. Josh was certainly eagerly anticipating Wei Da's feed ratio, but he knew he wouldn't be able to get this incredibly exciting and magical feed without paying some price. Josh, this is the right choice. You should know that the feed in my hand has a special function. Next, I will carefully examine your cattle herd to ensure that they receive the most correct nutritional supplement. This is genuine, and my feed is targeted and optimized. Although Wei Da is not worried about Josh taking out the feed ratio in his hand, because he has already prepared for it, this will be a feed ratio made based on the situation of the cattle herd, which is useful for the cattle herd in Josh, but it does not mean that other cattle herds can use it. This trip to Abilene made Wei Da's mood even happier, because the first time was just a try, and now Wei Da's client has come to visit, which also proves that Wei Da is getting closer to success. The world of mortals is so ridiculous, and infatuation is the most boring. Love and hate are written off, and I only wish to be happy with drinking and singing until old age. Wei Da, feeling very happy, sang this free and atmospheric song, laughing in the world of mortals, along with the song. People feel refreshed when it comes to happy events, and now Wei Da has encountered a happy event. A reward of $50,000 is definitely not a big deal, and Vida will now thoroughly develop a scientific and systematic feed plan for the cattle on Josh's farm. $50,000 US, converted to RMB, is over 300,000, In the United States, a giant hamburger costs less than $3, and NBA ticket prices range from a few dollars to a few $100s depending on the location. The price of the BMW X3 is about $40,000. Wade has no reason to be dissatisfied with his current income. If he receives this money, he will not consider buying a car. He will definitely send it back to his parents first. The family owes a lot of money, and with this money, they can basically repay all the money they owe. But when the family doesn't owe any money, coupled with Wade now being able to earn money, Wade has no reason not to believe that his family's conditions will get better and better. He has no reason not to believe that he can make his parents live a good life. Chapter 06. Opening the situation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I made money. I don't even know how to spend it. I bought a Nokia with my left hand and a Motorola with my right hand. Wade was really happy, holding a check for $50,000, which was the largest amount of money Wade had ever received. He kissed the check hard and felt that the Shennong trip was one of the most correct choices in life. Mom, I've made a lot of money, I've made a lot of money. Returning to his own room, excited Wade immediately made an overseas phone call. Now he's a wealthy person and not short of money. I made money, how much did I earn? Huang Yu laughed. Her son had only been out for about 10 days and made a phone call. Although it was a bit wasteful, she was still happy to hear his voice. As for earning money, she just believes that it's still like the previous work-study program, earning a few $100s is considered big money. At least my son is going to graduate with a master's degree, and this time he has completed a big business of helping people improve feed. He received $50,000, which is about $300,000. When I transfer the money back, we will pay off our family's debts first. Wade was very happy and had been constantly demanding from his parents. Now he can finally help his parents share the pressure. At this time, Wade naturally felt a great sense of achievement. 300,000 Huang Yu was startled. This was really a big sum of money. It can be said that Wade's family's savings have never exceeded 50,000 yuan. Although Wade's parents are very hardworking, studying is really expensive. Now Wade suddenly made 300,000 yuan. Although she knew her son was an international student and had the ability, 300,000 yuan still made Huang Yu feel a bit worried. She was afraid that her son would go astray. Mom, don't worry, this money is earned entirely by your son's abilities. Hurry up with your father and get your passport ready. You'll come over in a while, and you'll know your son's abilities. It's not that I'm bragging, this improved feed still has a promising future. I just helped a ranch improve its feed, and if we switch to a large ranch, we'll earn even more. Excited Wade wasn't bragging either, he believes that Josh will definitely spread his abilities, and Vida believes that he will definitely have an increasingly prominent reputation. Wade's parents were all very happy, and even Huang Yu couldn't help but cry with joy. They worked hard to support their son's education, even if they owed him a lot of money, hoping that his son could learn more skills and his life would be better in the future. Now that Wade has achieved great success, the family can be considered to have come through all the hardships. Vida was very satisfied with remitting $50,000 back to the country, and the taxes in Texas were very low. For Vida, there is no need to worry about the money he earned being swallowed by the U.S. government now. As for Wade, he also received a few phone calls during this period. Although not every ranch has experienced issues such as loss of appetite in beef cattle, Wade needs to pay a consulting fee ranging from a few hundred to several thousand yuan to go and check. Wade can now earn a lot of money, at least now he feels that his wallet will slowly bulge. I have been in the United States for almost 2 years, and Vida's savings have also exceeded $5,000 for the first time. Although Wade was able to earn some money during this period, he was not satisfied either. He was still constantly researching and needed to strive for excellence. The Shennong Jing is vast and profound. If Wade wants to achieve greater success, he cannot just satisfy these small benefits of the current situation. Currently, Wade only has some insights into feed, and although he has some knowledge in other areas, he may not necessarily know too much. Moreover, there is a lot of knowledge in the ranch, so Wade naturally needs to work harder and enrich himself at this time. Wade's mood is very good. These days, people have been calling to inquire. In the small city of Abilene with a population of about 100,000, especially for those ranchers, the name of Chinese Wei is constantly being mentioned, because this Chinese Wei possesses excellent skills. He is able to challenge and poison beef cattle to have a better growth rate, and he can ensure that these animals love to eat. Texas is a major agricultural and pastoral state, and Wade knew that the pastures here were still very developed, so at this time, Wade is completely invincible because there will definitely be more people coming to him for help. For Wade, this is naturally the best opportunity because he can accumulate more experience through these practices and earn more money in this process. Hi Wei, I'm Josh. Old Josh's phone call came back, and now Josh is very enthusiastic about Wade. There is no way, many of these ranchers rely on the livestock in these ranches to make money, and Wade's technology can help them earn more money, so he is certainly enthusiastic about Wade. Old buddy, I don't want to receive your call because it makes me feel like there's something wrong with my feed, Wade joked. I'm your ranch consultant, and I don't want to be a worm that only takes money and doesn't do anything. Dude, this is an interesting joke. Josh was in a good mood. The cows, who had previously lost their appetite, now began to eat enthusiastically and happily. Josh also believed that these cows would gain weight faster, so he was naturally very happy. He found a long-term partner, a remarkable nutritionist, who could make his ranch more successful. Hey buddy, I still have to go to school today. Is there anything I need to do? After a few casual remarks, Wade didn't say much anymore. Now he needs to hurry up and keep enriching himself. It's that simple. Wei, there's a big guy here, that's over 20,000 acres. Josh's ranch is relatively small, less than 2,000 acres. Although 20,000 acres of ranch in the United States cannot be considered a real big ranch, the ranch Wade is currently in contact with is really a big guy. Okay, buddy, I think I'm tempted. If I really need my help, I think I'll go and investigate. Wade was still full of expectations in his heart. If the deal is really successful, this may be a super big cooperation worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Of course, Wade didn't just make a profit and leave, just like Josh. His small ranch was willing to pay him $50,000, which was not just for this batch of beef cattle feed. Otherwise, it can be said that a group of cows like him, aside from the cost, really can't make much profit. This is a 3-year collaboration, during which Vida will regularly provide assistance to Josh's ranch. Wei, in Abilene, Hansen's ranch is one of the best ranches. If you can get Hansen's ranch, then you can also establish a foothold in Abilene. Josh's words are not unfounded, as Abilene's agriculture and animal husbandry are gradually being replaced by other industries, but there are still some ranches that exist. If you can win some big customers, so for Wade, of course, he can stand firm here. Okay, I know it's going to be a good opportunity for me now. Of course, Wade knows what this represents, and he won't miss this opportunity. Although it is not yet known what problems have occurred with Hansen's ranch, Wade is still very confident. Wei, I think you need a lawyer now, which will give you more help. The two of them didn't say much anymore. After confirming some details, Josh also reminded before the end of the call. Wade also knows that in the United States, many times it is necessary to rely on contracts to speak, listing them one by one in the contract, and everything is done according to the contract. Of course, Wade also knows that he really needs to consider finding a lawyer now, at least when facing more important cooperation in the future, he needs a lawyer present. One of the two most profitable professions in the United States is being a lawyer, and another profession is being a dentist. Wade doesn't have much pressure either. There are still quite a few law firms in Dallas, so finding a more reliable one is not a big deal of pressure. Wade is also constantly preparing, and he is determined to win the important cooperation in the future. He now has more confidence in opening up an increasingly larger situation. Now Wade has achieved a very good start, so he also needs to steadily improve and create better opportunities at this time. Chapter 07. Hansen's Troubles. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Wade is currently very busy, and hiring a private lawyer is too luxurious for him. It is also unnecessary now. After all, there are not many things on his end that require a lawyer to handle specifically. During the careful search for a more reliable law firm, Wade gradually gained some fame. For the ranchers in Abilene, Wade was definitely a worthy acquaintance who needed the skills he provided. Wade is also studying more magical techniques in the Shennong Jing. Although he has gradually opened up some opportunities now, Wade is not satisfied with just a little bit of foray into feed. His vision is very broad. What he needs now is to make himself stronger. He needs to master more skills. Wade is also quite happy now because he is constantly learning, and now he also knows more knowledge and skills. Driving to Abilene, this was an appointment made with old John. Although it was nearly a 4-hour drive, Wade had no dissatisfaction at all because he was busy with his career and the people at work were both painful and happy. Wade is like this now. Although he may be very tired and busy, only with such efforts can he get more rewards. Wade has a clear understanding of these things. This damn weather. The Ben didn't have air conditioning, and this car was mostly a big steamer. The more than 4-hour drive also brought Wade to the countryside of Josh, sweating profusely. Wade muttered curses about this damn weather. The summer in Texas is really difficult to endure, it's just too hot. Welcome, buddy. Josh smiled and bumped his chest with Wade's American pie. During this time, he was very happy to meet Wade, a very good nutritionist. Seeing the thriving cattle on the ranch, he had no reason to be unhappy. In recent years, many ranchers have faced difficulties in their operations, especially for small ranchers like him. However, he is now very confident that Wade can help him establish a better nutrition system for his livestock. You came early, it's half an hour earlier than our agreed time. Okay, I'm here to have a cold beer and of course, take a shower. This damn weather, of course, is also because it's difficult to walk on this road, and I really feel uncomfortable. Wade didn't polite to Josh either. Americans have a good sense of time, but they are often very rigid and agree on a certain time, which is very frustrating. Although being late is not good, being a little early is naturally even better. Mary, it looks like you're in a good mood. Wade smiled and gave Josh's wife Mary a face-to-face salute. During this time, he and Josh's family were also quite familiar. After all, they had also come a few times. Overall, the Josh family has a relatively American personality and is very outgoing, although sometimes they are also very enthusiastic. Hey buddy, hurry up and take a shower in the bathroom. Maybe you should listen to my opinion and replace your car. I can give you a lot of advice, Mary joked with a smile, knowing that Wade's broken car doesn't have air conditioning. The car windows were all open all the way, so Wade naturally looked a bit disheveled and dusty now. No problem, after completing this collaboration, I will change the car. Wade didn't have much money in hand, so naturally he had no choice but to continue using this old car. Wade is not a miser either. If this cooperation is achieved, Wade's wallet will bulge. Of course, he will reward himself well in exchange for a good car will not be a problem. Although I learned some things over the phone, Wade and Josh were chatting while drinking cold beer after taking a shower. The focus is naturally on the rancher Hansen, and Wade still values this cooperation very much. If an agreement is reached, he will completely strive for a comfortable life. Even if it's not just about changing cars, Wade can also consider changing houses. After all, the house he rents now is relatively shabby. Hansen's ranches, like many large ranches in Texas, are mainly composed of beef cattle and sheep. Considering the arid and hot climate in central Texas, generally speaking, Brahman cattle and Boer goats, which are relatively heat-resistant and have a diverse diet, are the main livestock that are easy to raise. Although Hansen did not specifically express his troubles to Josh, the general situation in Abilene is similar. Basically, the weather is too hot now, and the cows and sheep refuse to eat, which also makes these ranchers who mainly rely on animal husbandry more worried. This is their main source of income. At this time, if the cows and sheep refuse to eat and gain weight, it will be them who will suffer the greatest losses. Wada has a rough idea of the situation, and even with a slight improvement in the feed structure for livestock, he is not under much pressure. Wada is still very confident now, and as long as he has the opportunity to exert himself, he can seize the opportunity. Hansen is here, guys. Vida and Josh unconsciously changed the topic, talking about cowboys and horsemanship. Of course, Vida played the role of an attentive student at this time. And at this moment, Mary came in and also told Vida that their main leader had arrived. "Wei, it's nice to meet you. I've heard a lot about you recently. I'm Hansen Roberts." Hansen is a middle-aged black man of all sizes, warmly opening his hands like a huge black bear. However, Wada is also very enthusiastic about bumping into Hansen's chest. Meeting him for the first time is one thing, but there should be no difference in etiquette. For this Hansen, Vida's feeling is still good. This is the gold mine, of course Vida's feeling is good. "Nice to meet you, buddy. I'm Wada, and I know Wei might be even more clear to you." Wada joked with a smile as the three of them also entered the room at the invitation of their host, Josh. The weather outside was really hot. Without much courtesy, Hansen came to seek help this time. After a brief conversation, Vida also learned about some of the troubles Hansen is currently facing. Hansen's ranch is not only due to the current loss of appetite among cattle and sheep, but also because it is difficult for the grass to grow in such weather conditions. Wada nodded. During this period, although he was more widely spread by ranchers in improving feed, Wada also actively promoted himself. In fact, he also has some abilities in improving the grass, but the current ranchers are not willing to give Wada more opportunities. This is also an unavoidable thing. Often, the most important resource for a ranch is grass. Without grass, the ranch loses its value. Wada had some thoughts in his heart. Hansen was really pushed to the brink now. Although he had a certain irrigation system, it was really difficult for the grass to grow in such hot weather, and buying grass is really too expensive. His ranch has tens of thousands of cows and sheep, and if he relies entirely on buying grass at this time, he will definitely declare bankruptcy soon. Hansen, grass improvement takes some time, and I think it's difficult for it to have an immediate effect. Wada's words made Hansen's last hope disappear. Although he also knew that some of his previous hopes were more extravagant, now Wada has also said the answer he least wants to hear, which really makes him feel a bit overwhelmed. "Okay, Wei, I admit I was too naive. I know that grass improvement requires time, but unfortunately, I don't have enough time now. I think what I need now is to sell the ranch so that I may not go bankrupt." Hansen, with a bitter smile in his eyes, revealed despair. The price of grass is constantly rising, and it's really difficult for him to continue supporting it. "Perhaps I can give you some help. You know, I am an excellent nutritionist and I know the most reasonable dietary structure for cows and sheep. Man, believe me, I can help you with some things, such as reducing some expensive grass while ensuring the growth of cows and sheep. This will save you some money and also help you get through difficulties. Improving grass is something Hansen can't wait for, so it's better to change the feed." Hansen remained silent for a long time. He really didn't want to sell the ranch, but he didn't have much confidence in the current ranch either. "I don't know how long the drought will last, but if we can't save grass now, he will really collapse soon. Wei, I am willing to believe in your ability, but I really cannot provide too much forage. The price of forage is constantly rising now," Hansen said with some pain. "Hansen, if you're willing to trust me, I can give you a guarantee. Low-quality grass doesn't matter, as Boer goats and Brahman cattle can be raised on a rough range. We can adjust the structure of the feed, introduce the cost of grass, and choose straw, corn, and the like. I think these can reduce your pressure. In the United States, the prices of corn and other products are not very high, and Vida's words also ignited some hope for Hansen, because if Vida's words were true, he believed he would definitely be able to overcome the difficulties in front of him. Chapter 08. Opportunities Come. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. After sitting at Mercedes-Benz, driving a BMW, having nothing to do with washing saunas and eating lobsters, I made money. Wade hummed a song and returned with a full load. These days, he has been wholeheartedly focused on Hansen Ranch, and he has also successfully completed his task at this time. When the lawyer carefully examined the contract, Wade signed his own name. Wade Shang is a consultant for Hansen Ranch, with an annual salary of 150,000 yuan and a 2-year contract. Wade also used his professional skills to make Hansen feel that his expenses were definitely worth it. As Wade continuously adjusted the feed-sharing structure, his expenses continued to decrease. Hansen now has a lot of confidence. Although the drought is still ongoing, he believes that he can definitely ensure the development of the ranch. As long as the cattle and sheep are sold, he can make a lot of money. This is another large sum of money, and now Wade can guarantee that he can exchange for a new car. Although the Mercedes-Benz is great, the one in hand can't keep up with the rhythm. In such a big summer, there is no air conditioning, which really makes it difficult for Wade to accept. Moreover, the house he is currently renting is not considered good, so he has around $100,000 in his hands, so of course he will not mistreat him. Wade, who is in a good mood, first chose to change his house. Currently, he cannot afford a better house, but it's okay. He has rented it out. There are still many Asian Americans in Dallas, and Vida chose a relatively high-end community with the recommendation of a specialized real estate agent. The security environment here is relatively good. In the United States, firearms are rampant, and in some slums, public security is still very chaotic. This is a standalone duplex building, although there are also many apartments in the United States. Wade doesn't need to treat himself unfairly now. He prefers a larger space and doesn't like being too crowded. With an attic of nearly 300 square meters and a garage and lawn, Wade feels that his current life has not only reached a moderately prosperous level, but has even reached the level of prosperity ahead of schedule. Although this house is only rented, Wade is still very satisfied. With the house already settled, Wade is also preparing to switch to a new car. Considering that I now need to run more towards ranches and farms, often I also need to pass through dirt roads. So the chassis must be high, and it's better to have sufficient power. This is naturally aimed at off-road, SUV, and the like. If the chassis is too low, the chassis may be scratched in a few days. The Hummer is really a manly thing, and the Vida is almost 1.8 meters tall. It's also very nice to drive such a car. As for the price of Hummer, it can actually be bought for around $50,000. However, Wade feels that there is still no need to choose a Hummer now, not because of fuel consumption or other reasons, but because there is no need to be so ostentatious. At the car dealership, Wade's mind has changed a bit now. Although he is often just a means of transportation now, it does not mean that Wade does not need to consider the next development. Nowadays, Wade is not satisfied with just becoming a consultant for various ranches. He feels it is necessary to make his life more exciting so as not to disappoint himself and obtain a magical inheritance. Pickup trucks are actually quite good. They can be used as both family cars and for carrying goods and traveling, and it also has strong power, and is stronger than a sedan's ability to carry cargo and adapt to *** road surfaces. Wade has put his mind to it. Now it's time to choose a pickup truck. This is definitely quite convenient for oneself. Wade fell in love with the Dodge Ram and thought of the handsome sheep head on the emblem. Wade thought it was a good choice for him. The Dodge Ram can be said to be the earliest pickup truck, with a muscular front design and powerful body lines, coupled with excellent configuration, which can fully meet the needs of Vida, and the price is also around $50,000, which is really the best choice for Wada. Wada also spent some money. Naked cars are not a good choice, and he has no need to compromise himself now, although he can't talk about great wealth and wealth now. Wada also knows that money is earned. Although he has spent some money now, it is also for the purpose of earning more money in the future. The new car will have to wait for 2 more days, but Wada doesn't mind either. He has plenty of time now, and even in school, he doesn't need too much time. After all, Wada is a master's student, and there are some differences in the education system between the United States and China. Wada doesn't need to report every day now. He basically waits with peace of mind until he receives that certificate. Vida also has his own thoughts. Although he has gradually opened up some situations here, Vida also knows that his pace is still relatively slow. Although being content and always happy is a good thing, Wada knows better that if he is just a small wealthy person, it is really a waste of luxury. Although Wada has also left some behind, it is difficult to guarantee that his current research on improving those feeds will be carefully studied by other ranchers. Wada has never been so naive, especially in the United States. Many times, they believe in science and research. Wada knows that when the feed on his side has a significant impact, there will definitely be some thoughtful people who will study these things, even if they cannot fully understand them, but it will definitely affect Wada to some extent. As for patents, Wada has thought about it. It's just that applying is one thing, but whether it can block those ambitious individuals is another matter. With such outstanding inheritance, Wada certainly has reason to pursue greater achievements. Although life is already very good now, Wada knows he can become better. Ambition can sometimes bring greater motivation, and now Wada is like this. He knows he can become better. Wada wants to gain more, he wants to use this excellent legacy to live a comfortable life. Wada doesn't necessarily want to become a top billionaire, and that's not necessarily the life he enjoys the most. Wada felt that he might be able to consider some things, such as doing things he likes while not lacking money. Previously, Wada did not have that condition. He had to study hard and strive to find a good job. And now Wada naturally doesn't have that much worry. He has enough confidence to make some money now. However, Wada also needs to seize opportunities. He needs to accumulate some capital faster so that he can truly soar to the sky. Wada felt that there were still many things he wanted to do, and now he may have the opportunity to achieve those things that he had only hoped for before. Wada, who is in a good mood, is also seizing the time and constantly expanding his network during this period. The ranchers on Abelin's side seem to be something Wada needs to grasp, but Wada's gaze is not just here. Although Abelin has traditional pastures here, it would be a great opportunity for Vida, but what Wada needs more is to find a larger platform, such as some influential people. Wada is now seeking a green card, which means immigrating to the United States. It's not that the domestic situation is bad, but rather that Wada now wants to fully utilize some of his abilities. Without American citizenship, there will be significant limitations. Studying abroad and immigrating seems to be a very good choice, and Wada is now also a master's student studying abroad, but this application is still quite difficult to pass, and Wada feels that if he really applies for studying abroad and immigration now, the possibility of obtaining a green card is not very high. As for investment immigration, this is at least a possibility that requires over $1 million. Americans also like wealthy people, but Wada nowadays cannot be considered a true wealthy person. So what Wada sees now is skilled immigration, which is a very good opportunity for him. Americans like some experts with special skills. Wada once saw a report that a domestic paper cuttings expert also got a green card from the United States. So it's not necessarily necessary to have any great skills now. As long as you have good technical abilities, you are still very confident in getting a green card. After consulting with a professional lawyer, Wada now has some confidence in his heart. When Vida's influence gradually expanded, and when Vida came into contact with higher level figures on Ablin's side, it was also because some people found Vida at this time, which was an opportunity. Chapter 09. Getting Rich. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Weida is still sleeping in, which is no wonder of him. During this period, Weida has been running around, and every time he goes to Ablin, it takes nearly 8 hours to travel back and forth in the car. Moreover, he is facing the big sun to inspect the cattle and sheep herds, which is really not an easy task. In addition, new cars and houses nowadays can make people feel happy, and sleeping in is naturally a great enjoyment. Wei, it's nice to meet you. I'm Kenny Anderson, the manager of Dante Feed. The doorbell rang, and Lin Shan walked downstairs barehanded to open the door. This was a middle-aged white stranger, and his self-introduction also surprised Lin Shan. Welcome, Kenny, please come in. Although Weida was stunned, he didn't hesitate. He didn't think it would be difficult for some thoughtful people to find themselves. In fact, Weida never intended to keep a low profile. I'm sorry, last night's work was relatively late. Do you need something to drink? Ice beer. Kenny sat on the sofa with a smile. He came uninvited, so Weida's behavior was not considered impolite. Having a simple conversation with Kenny, Vida is now able to guess some of Kenny's intentions. During this period, Weida has been busy working on Ablin's ranch. Although there are very few long-term cooperative ranches, it must be admitted that even if Weida's opinions are obtained, some ranchers can still benefit from it. The fame is gradually increasing now, not only in Ablin, but also in Ablin where Weida is even more famous. Weida has great experience in the preparation of feed, which is a consensus among some ranchers. Weida's outstanding ability, which not only saves costs but also ensures the healthy growth of livestock, has naturally been welcomed by farmers. For some feed factories, if they can grasp some information in Vida's hands, then there is no need to think that their business can definitely grow bigger. There are many large ranches in the United States, and they do not lack the market at all. Kenny's fertilizer factory is still very large scale, and a fertilizer factory with an annual output of 200,000 tons can be considered a strong partner for Vida, and now Kenny also has more ambitions. He wants to become the fertilizer king, he wants to become a fertilizer giant. He knew that once he mastered those magical fertilizer formulas, he would have his own place in this fertilizer market. Now his fertilizer is basically not much different from other fertilizer factories, and his competitiveness is naturally average. So now Kenny has put his mind to it. This is a good opportunity, finding that Chinese person, even at some cost, as long as you get those fertilizer formulas, this is his huge opportunity. Perhaps the formula obtained may not be applicable to every ranch, but as long as it can be better than ordinary feed on the market, then Kenny will be successful. Wei, I think you should know why I came. I need the feed formula you have, it's a treasure. Kenny didn't continue to ramble on. After briefly introducing his company, he was also proving his strength to Weida, which was also necessary. Perhaps for many ranches, my feed formula is indeed very valuable. Weida doesn't need to be humble, he is in business. At this time, belittling his feed formula is completely incompatible with money. Weida is not that foolish. However, Kenny, perhaps you need to know that my feed often needs to be proportioned according to the specific situation of the livestock in order to maximize the potential of the feed. Kenny cursed inwardly. He had already had some psychological preparation before coming, and he absolutely did not think that Vida was just a science maniac. He was also prepared that Vida would be a shrewd businessman, but now it seems that he still underestimates Vida, because Vida is now taking a step back and giving ambiguous answers is just testing Kenny. I know you scientists like to be the most precise in everything, but as businessmen, what we may need to achieve is the average. I don't need every client to get the maximum profit, what I need is the vast majority of potential clients to become my loyal supporters. Kenny can only choose to speak more clearly, and if Vida is allowed to pretend to be confused like this, it won't be beneficial for Kenny. Wada shrugged his shoulders, but he didn't answer. Wada is now invincible, and he has the initiative. Vida certainly doesn't expect these ranches to run around one by one, it's just too tiring. Selling the technology of feed does not put much pressure on Wada, because feed is just a small part, he still masters some more excellent techniques. The most important thing is that when feed factories start to increase production scale, although it may be better than ordinary feed, it may not necessarily be able to achieve the best level. Wei, I need the technology you have in your hands. I know this is your research result. But I think I may have to pay some price. I can spend money to buy your research result. Although Kenny was a bit angry, he could only endure at this moment. Vida remained calm, which only made Kenny more passive. Okay, I admit I'm a bit tempted. Just take a look at my actions during this period and you'll know that I need money. However, Kenny, I admit that the feed we produce may have more potential and value than some feed in the market, but I also hope you understand that this is not a small amount. Wada didn't have much control. He did want to sell his technology to make some money, it was that simple. Angus cattle, Brahman cattle, and of course, Texas Longhorn cattle are all the main choices for ranches. Of course, there are also sheep herds, Boer goats, and Dexter sheep. In fact, there are many sheep populations. You should know that these guys have different appetites, we cannot be careless, they all have their own living habits. Vida's statement is not false, but more of it is raising prices. It is obvious that obtaining the technology in his hands is definitely not an easy task, which requires Kenny Anderson to pay a huge price. Kenny left, feeling extremely depressed, however, Wada is naturally not worried. He has a treasure trove, and now Wada knows that there will definitely be more people coming to contact him. Although Kenny was disappointed with this initial negotiation, it was clear that he still had enough expectations and would not be affected by some minor setbacks now. It is impossible to impress Wada without providing enough checks, and now Wada is also preparing to make a big profit so that he can live the life he likes more quickly. He thinks it's good now. The next time Kenny comes, it's time for Vida to make big money. Finding a private lawyer may need to be put on the agenda. Although Wada has always felt that he has imagined the future to be incredibly beautiful, he also maintains a sufficiently optimistic attitude towards the future. But Wada still underestimated the speed of his development, feeling that his success seemed to have come too quickly. This is true, Wada feels like he can't come to his senses now. Kenny is here again, but this time it's very professional. Wada also hired a professional lawyer, which is not cheap. They charge by the hour, costing several $100s per hour, which puts a lot of pressure on Wada. However, compared to lawyer fees, Wada cares more about how much he can earn. There are not so many fools in this world, especially for those business people. Kenny brought professional lawyers, as well as enough analysts, feed experts, and a disorganized team of about 10 professionals. The value, market potential, and evaluation of the feed in Wada's hands. There are really many of these things, but Vida doesn't care because not only Kenny, but also some other feed manufacturers are trying to get in touch with Vida. Kenny spent $3 million, but only obtained some specific feed data. With the help of a lawyer, Wada also understood some truths. Although he had exclusive production rights, Wada's authorization was only for an annual production of 500,000 tons, with a contract term of 5 years. Wada also needed to receive a 3% sales share. $3 million. After the lawyer checked the contract, Wada also signed it. At this moment, Wada felt like he was dreaming. $3 million, which was nearly 20 million renminbi. Wada never imagined that he could transfer such a large amount of money, a crazy but real US dollar. Wada is truly wealthy now, even in the United States. Although there are many millionaires like $3 million, one thing is certain. This is something that the vast majority of Americans cannot earn in their lifetime, and Wada is truly wealthy now. Chapter 10. The Great Ranch. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Money is not everything, but without it, it is absolutely impossible. Wade understood this truth a long time ago. Now he has received a check of 3 million, which is not a small number. The taxes in Texas are relatively low, which has also saved Vida some money now. What can 3 million people do? In fact, there are really many things that 3 million people can do. After just receiving a check of 3 million, Wade also entered a higher level of comparison, which is known as the upper class. Being able to establish a foothold and continuously grow in the banking-dominated U.S. market is really not a simple task. They need to withstand the test of the market at this time and also need to receive recognition from customers. Wuhua Bank is a versatile customer-oriented bank. Their goal is to meet all the financial needs of customers and help them achieve financial success. Wells Fargo Bank ranks second in the United States, with business scope including community banking, investment and insurance, mortgage loans, specialized loans, corporate loans, personal loans, and real estate loans, which can also meet the needs of Vida today. Kenny is a capable person who has also been exposed to a higher level of social hierarchy. He introduced Wuhua Bank to Wade and also introduced a very good private lawyer to Wade. Of course, it was also at this time that Wade had just revealed a little bit of his desire to immigrate, and the immigration office immediately approached him. This is not a joke. With $3 million in hand and the affirmation of Vida's technical ability, it is not ruled out that Kenny may be here to clear the relationship, which will make it easier for Vida to want to immigrate. The difficulty of immigration for wealthy people is relatively small, and Wade is not considered a true top billionaire now, but he is also good. In addition, with some excellent technology, it also means that Vida can easily obtain U.S. citizenship. Obtaining American citizenship is very good for Wade. Americans have different tax obligations for their own nationals and foreigners. Of course, Wade does not want to pay taxes in the United States and will still have to pay a portion of the taxes after returning to China. Moreover, in order to develop in the United States, nationality is often restricted. For example, buying a ranch, foreigners can buy a ranch, but the procedures are really complicated. And it's very simple. There are really many restrictions in China, and in the United States, Wade thinks he may be able to be more unrestricted. Although not a top-tier billionaire, immigrating to Wade is relatively easier compared to the average person. Don't think that Americans don't care about relationships, especially in capitalist countries where money is often the focus. I submitted my immigration application and was quickly called over by the immigration office for a chat. Of course, the most important thing was that I saw $3 million in Wade's account. In addition, it can be considered that some investments are made in the Kenny feed factory, let alone Vida, who also has other investment intentions. So now it's very simple. Once verified by the immigration office, immigration can basically be completed. Whispering a few words to the American flag, Wade has also completed the task now. Having obtained a U.S. green card, it still takes some time to become a citizen, but now it's great for Wade. The green card can basically meet Wade's current needs. Dad and Mom, I have obtained a green card now. You don't need to worry about the money. The money I sent you is enough for you to use at home. Give me some time, I am considering buying a ranch now, and then I will truly make a lot of money. Wade's parents naturally know about immigration, and Wei Hui and Huang Yu don't have any objections to their son immigrating to the United States because they both know that without immigration, Wade seems to find many things inconvenient to do. Buying a ranch, why are you buying a ranch? Wade's father was taken aback. I say you're the same. Although your major is in natural sciences, there's no need to buy a ranch. How much success can those who raise cows and sheep make? The most important thing for you now is to focus on your career with peace of mind, just study feed well. You should know the truth that you can't chew too much. Dad, this rancher is actually a real millionaire many times, and millionaires all play with this. I just want to be at ease. If I have a ranch, I raise some cattle and sheep on my own, and I don't play on a very large ranch. It's basically just a small fuss. And most importantly, I have to do some research, and if I have land on my own land, I can do whatever I want. If I buy a ranch, this land will always be mine, which can be considered an investment. Wade explained with a smile, it's not necessary to be too specific, but his words naturally make his parents fully support him. It's in Texas, and Vida is planning to buy a ranch there. There are actually quite a few ranches nowadays, with scales ranging from tens of acres to thousands or even tens of thousands of acres. As for these prices, they can range from hundreds of thousands of dollars to tens of millions or even billions of dollars. So Wade has around $3 million in his hands, although not a lot, it is still almost enough. The sun here in Texas is very fierce, which is not a good thing for ordinary ranchers. Wade has now come into contact with some ranchers. He knows that for some wealthy people, ranches are just a large toy, but for those farmers who rely mainly on animal husbandry, such weather is really unbearable. The brokerage firm controlled by Wuhua Bank is providing some information to Vida, who is now patiently and carefully selecting, because he doesn't have much money in his hands, although he has been taking on some work gradually during this period. His money can still reach $3 million. Large ranches are basically not worth considering as they lack the economic strength. And Wade also has a playful attitude towards ranches. He doesn't need a huge ranch to develop animal husbandry. The asking price for a ranch of over 2,000 acres is 3 million yuan, which is quite reasonable, but Wade doesn't have any money in his hands. It's not possible to buy a ranch with all of it. Managing it also requires money. 500 acres, this ranch is a bit too small, basically not enough to look at. It's in Abilene, located in central Texas and part of the Central Plains region of the United States. This is a pasture of about 1,300 acres, mostly flat land, 1,300 acres, this is almost 8,000 acres of pasture, over 500 hectares of pasture, this is definitely not small. Wade has no reason to be dissatisfied. This ranch is less than an hour's drive from the town, and there is basically no shortage of water, making life relatively convenient. Moreover, the natural environment here in Texas can sometimes be quite harsh, with tornadoes and other similar conditions not unfamiliar to Texans, while there are basically no natural disasters here. It's a bit hot, but it's okay. Under the witness of private lawyer Thomas and his agent, the 1.8 million yuan price made Vida officially the owner of this ranch. The price is definitely not cheap, and it is also because the original rancher really finds it difficult to continue to support it. This dry weather seems to have no end, which can definitely put some ranchers on the brink of bankruptcy. Although the ranch is now empty and has nothing, except for a decent-looking brick and tile building, which is also the rancher's house, there are also several worker rooms next to it, of course, a stable that can accommodate about 10 horses, a relatively average-sized barn, and a large warehouse. Basically, the environment of this ranch is still very good, and Vida doesn't need to continue investing money in the layout of buildings because these buildings are basically sufficient now. Standing on the balcony of the small building, looking at this ranch that was out of sight, although his ranch still had nothing, Wade believed that his ranch would soon be truly deserving of its name, the Great Ranch.